really want to read more football romance, but it wasn't on my TBR. No, you can't be.
Yes, you can.
I can be a mood reader if I want to be. Think of all the people you told your TBR. You can't just mood read.
You can do anything you put your mind to. If you want to mood read football romances, you do it.
I have to believe in myself. And also, why are we angry all the time?
I don't know. It's just kind of our vibe for some reason.
Hi, my name's Bea, and welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance. And tone it down a little. Hello and welcome to another wrap up. Oh my gosh, September was just the best in terms of a reading month. I had such a blast and I hope that you did too. And I can't wait to talk about all the amazing reading that I did. Part of the reason I read so much is because we all started the month off sick. So I was home more. Some of you know from my post recently that we all started October sick as well. We like to do it every month or so apparently once school starts. And so far I've been okay and I've been knocking on all the wood, but you're gonna hear it in this video today. I can tell that I'm starting to sound stuffy, so I'm sorry in advance. I'm gonna do the best I can and hoping, knocking on all the wood again, that I will continue to feel well in October because I have so many fun things planned for us. But let's go ahead and start talking about my stats for the month of September. In September, I read 5 Christmas/holiday romances, 3 contemporary romances, 4 magical realism /sci-fi/fantasy, however you want to break that down, romances. I read 9 sports romances if you want to count the 3 rereads that I did. I read 2 soccer romances, which was a total surprise because I set out to read football romance. I was going to read 2 and then I wound up reading 6, 3 of which were rereads. And I read 1 hockey romance. I also read 2 alien romances and only 2 historical romances. I think I'm still coming off of having read a lot of historical romance in the month of August, and my book total for the month was 25. New to me authors included Janet Daly, Anita Hughes, Shannon Bright, Sarah Reddy, Uzma Jalaluddin, Marissa Stapley, Meryl Wilsner, Holly Cassidy, Eliza Evans, Rebecca Yaros, and Lisa Pierce. I read 2 5-star books, 3 4.5-star books, 5 4-star books, 6 3.5-star books, 4 3-star books, and 2 2.5-star books. So let's just get right into it. All right, I'm going to start with my first 5-star read, and this is going to be confusing because here we are, I'm talking September, decorated for October, but talking about a Christmas book. I have read many a Christmas romance lately. Many. And this book, The Christmas Wager, outshines all of them. It was exceptional. Bella wants to move up in her career. She's in an LA real estate office. They want to take over this small town building by building, and they're going to start with this beloved Christmas tree shop. The grandson of the owner of the Christmas tree shop is not about to let this Christmas tree shop go without a fight. Let's see how many times I can say Christmas tree shop in a few minutes. Their town holds something called the Christmas Games, which were so fun. It brought the holiday fun and it was creative. I loved it. They decided to compete. If she wins, she gets the Christmas tree shop, and if she loses, she's gotta go. So they're rivals to lovers in this book. It was so much fun. This author is typically a mystery thriller writer known as Hannah Mary McKinnon, which made sense because the thing I didn't expect in this Christmas rom-com was suspense. Daring rescues. There was excitement. Yes, there was romance. It was closed door, but it was still a little spicy. I loved it. I actually boo-hooed at the end. Happy tears. It was so deep, so satisfying. Great ensemble cast, super cute small town, fun holiday feels, great chemistry between the characters, great writing. What more can you want? I read this as an arc. I liked it so much that I went out and bought myself my own copy. So that should tell you just how good this is. My other 5-star for the month of September, Fourth Wing. This came out of nowhere. I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I'd heard mixed things from different people, but Joanna of XO Joe encouraged me to try it. She, as I've mentioned, is my fantasy romance guru. So I gave it a whirl and I'm so glad I did. It's a military academy where they're dragon riders. So it's set in a fantasy world. Initially, I was a little turned off because everyone was so angry, but you really start to care about all of the characters. The stakes could not be higher. Our heroine is uncovering a mystery as to what's actually going on behind the scenes. She's supposed to be coming into her power. Many people believe that she shouldn't be there. She is in a dragon rider school when she's always set to be a scribe. She's been more bookish, so to speak. And as she comes into her power and embraces the love of her life, you just really start to cheer. I just never would have anticipated that someone like me would fall head over heels for this book, but it was exciting. There wasn't too much world building because as you may know, I get lost if there's too much going on in terms of world building. So many twists and turns, just a great time. Jesson of Jesson Reads Romance mentioned that the narrator sounded like she had a cold. In the beginning of the book, kind of like I sound right now. It's true. After the first several hours, she sounds better and you're like, is this the same person? So that was kind of funny, but I really did enjoy the narration. And there's a surprise male narrator at the very end who gave me all the feels, and I was very, very excited for that. So I won't say who in case you want to be surprised, but yeah, I really had a great time. So let's talk about my first 4.5-star romance, Every Wish Way by Shannon Bright. This was another arc that I picked up. I was very intrigued. Look at that beautiful cover too. I thought that was so fun. We have Issa, who has a very toxic relationship with her mother. She just wants to please her. I was actually thinking about DNFing this book because in the beginning, Issa's such a mess and her relationship with her mother is such a mess. Issa only wants to please her mom. Initially, I thought this was going to be a shallow, formulaic rom-com, but it surprised me. There was science thrown in. I don't want to give too much away because part of the fun was not knowing, but I will say there was a twist that happened around the third act that made me want to reread the entire book from another perspective. It was really fascinating. It was much deeper and twistier than I thought. If you've seen the movie Bedazzled, or if you're familiar with the story of Aladdin, it was like that. Issa is painting her nails one night, making a wish, when out of the nail polish bottle comes Beckett. He is a jerk, sort of, initially. He's a genie. He's like a regular guy, but he is going to help her write her life by doing 3 wishes. And unfortunately, one of her wishes is to wish for Mr. Darcy, who does not translate very well into today's society, I will say that. So if you're a huge Mr. Darcy fan, this book may not be for you. I could go either way, so I was open to their interpretation of this character. It was a really fascinating look at what happens when Mr. Darcy and other characters from Pride and Prejudice come into today's time. Beckett and Issa work together to try to make this wish work, and in the process, Issa and Beckett fall for each other. I had so much fun trying to figure out what was going to happen. I really didn't know, and I also assumed this wasn't going to be a spicy book, but they do hold all the spice till the very end, which was a fun little cherry on top of the sundae. It was fun, it was different, and I really enjoyed it. Gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about my next 4.5-star. I do these in order that I've read. This one almost was a 5-star for me, but it was too long. It was like 15 hours long, like 500 plus pages long. Otherwise, this would have been a perfect book. Ghosted by Sarah Reddy. This was another arc that I read. It blew me away. We have Jillian. She is of Indian descent, which I loved. I got to learn a little bit about the culture and the food. That was super fun. She's living in New York City. She moves into this apartment and meets Daniel, who is a ghost. He doesn't really know why he's there, but he figures that if he can help her move on with her life, he can move on to whatever's next. He's trying to help her find a man. She has some past trauma in her life that keeps her from really wanting to connect with guys at all. But somehow the fact that Daniel's a ghost, it allows her to do that. I'm sure you're not surprised to know that as he's trying to help her live her best life, get over her fears, he and she, they start to fall for one another hard. Thinking about love scenes between a person and a ghost could be so cringy, and that was a little bit of my concern, but it was achingly beautiful watching the two of them try to express their love for one another in the only way that they could. I found it so touching, so endearing. I was blown away. I felt like it could have ended a little bit sooner, but it still made for a really epic ending. There was even an extra epilogue that blew my mind. Oh my gosh. It reminded me a lot of the Dead Romantics, except there's no small town, and there is a very scientific spin on this as well that really made me fascinated. That's all I can say about that. Such a good book. Such a good book. So book 2 in the Wilmot Sisters series, Better Hate Than Never, just came out yesterday as I'm filming this. And I was really excited. Last month, I wanted to experience the first book in the series, so I finally got around to reading the Wilmot Sisters book 1, Two Wrongs Make a Right. I knew I was going to enjoy it. I love Chloe Leese. In fact, let me switch my books here. I love the Bergman Brothers series. That's better. But I've never read anything else by Chloe Leese before, so I was really excited to dive into the Wilmot Sisters and see how that stacked up against. It did not disappoint at all. We have B, who is on the autism spectrum. With my background, my two boys being on the autism spectrum, initially I was worried and wary about reading her at all as an author, but the way that she celebrates people who have autism has been so healing for my soul. And I loved getting to read about another character who was neurodivergent. It was wonderful. And then we have Jesse, who is our hero. He is dealing with anxiety of his own. The two of them decide to fake date to teach everybody a lesson because they tried to set Jamie and B up, and they are such opposites. They just don't figure that they could attract, but attract they do. It did feel a little bit silly that they were fake dating as revenge, which is probably part of the reason why I didn't do a 5-star. But this really did bring all the fun. Jamie is a cinnamon roll hero. I love a good cinnamon roll hero. Yeah, 4.5 stars. If the premise of fake dating as revenge hadn't felt so silly, it would have been a full 5. I didn't realize there was a novella that followed these two fabulous, fabulous books. I had such a good time reading these in January that when I heard there was a novella, I was like, I have to have this now. And of course, I had to get the audio because, again, we have Teddy Hamilton and Jacob Morgan, which it's like, oh my gosh. It was short. It was fun. I loved hearing them refer to one another as husband. There was also something they did that I don't want to give away in case you haven't had a chance to read the novella, but it was exciting and fun and something I've always wanted to see when I was reading these books and never did. So it was a nice little extra story. So this September, I finally finished the Game On series, which you may have seen my favorite football series romance collab that I did with Christy of Christy Reads a Lot, which was so much fun. Thank you again, Christy, for doing that with me. I love you so much. But yes, I finally finished book 1. I started with book 3, then months later read book 2, then months later read book 4, and then finally a year later I'm reading book 1, which made no sense. And that's what started me binging the rest of the series. Could not get enough Kristen Callahan. I love her so much, and I love the football romances that she writes. This book, book 1, which I've been trying to talk about, sorry, is The Hookup, and it was exceptional. I loved the narrators. Teddy Hamilton narrates all 4 of the books. I wish I had said this in my football romance rec video. Maxine Mitchell does the female heroine's voice in the first book, and I find her to be far superior, in my opinion, to Grace Grant, who does books 2 through 4. We have Anna and Drew, Battle Baylor. Drew is the quarterback of the football team at his college. He's like a god, and she still sees herself as the gal that nobody wants. Well, he wants her and she wants him, and they proceed to hook up all over campus, but she doesn't want any emotion. He falls first. He falls hard. Finally, she gives in, and it is delicious and it is so much fun. I gave this 4 stars though because there's just so many twists and turns, like so many things thrown at them. It felt like it really didn't need to be. So much fun and such a great way to start the series. If you read this, you're gonna want to read the rest. I know I did, and it was such a blast. Oh my gosh, my next 4-star romance. In this gorgeous reprint, we have a new Honeymoon novella. So I had to read it and rate it on its own, like I did with all of the novellas thus far. This one is pretty straightforward. Josie wants to try new things in the furs. Hayden is very nervous about that idea. He doesn't understand, and he worries about hurting her or making her uncomfortable in any way. It's funny. It's cute. It was spicy. It was exactly what you would expect from a honeymoon novella on the ice planet. I'm just gonna leave this up here as I talk about my next 4-star because it was also an alien romance. Ice Home Book 4, Angie's Gladiator. I found this to be one of the most charming and heartwarming, hilarious books that I've ever read by Ruby Dixon. I was not expecting that at all. We have Angie, who is pregnant and she doesn't know why, which is extremely creepy and weird, but they handle it beautifully, as Ruby Dixon does in her what I would consider cozy alien romances. Vortis is a gladiator. He is a clone, and he has his twin brother, essentially, who's another clone, Thrand. Thrand and Vortis have done everything together. All of a sudden, Vortis is finding himself really drawn to Angie in a romantic way, and Thrand doesn't really know what to do with that. It was very interesting to see the dynamics. In fact, I was impressed because the way that they end this book is reflecting on the relationship between Thrand and Vortis, which I found to be very refreshing, that we're talking about brotherly love and how important that is as well. But obviously the focus of this book is Angie and her baby and what happens with that, and then whether she and Vortis can all come together and make a beautiful family. The only reason I didn't give this 5 stars is because there was a conflict towards the end that just felt a little bit silly to me, a little contrived. But again, like, you don't want it to be too heavy because these are mostly like cozy. I laughed harder than I think I've ever laughed. I was crying. I was laughing so hard when he's off searching for a pickle, for example. Another good time. This one was an arc that actually just came out the other day. Love It 350 Degrees by Lisa Peers. You may have seen my 1-minute review of the book. We have two women that are in their 40s that are over a lot of the BS, which was really nice to see. Tori is trying to get by. Her wife left her, and so Tori's going to be an empty nester all by herself once her twins graduate and go to college. So Tori's really looking for the next thing in her life. When she finds out that her twins put her name in the hat for the national baking competition show, Bakerama, which is a huge hit, and she gets it. She gets on the show, which is where we meet Kendra. She's a type A personality. She's very stressed. She's got a million plates spinning in the air at the same time, that she's kind of lost her zest for life, and she's looking to see what's next too, but mostly she wants to try to save her restaurant, which is not doing well. Well, Tori and Kendra immediately feel a connection to one another. This romance was very much based on something that I found very refreshing: mutual admiration and respect. You see how much they admire each other, how much they appreciate each other through conversations and little notes that they write to one another. They have to be super secretive because you can't have a judge and a contestant in a relationship together. So that made it really interesting. There's also a mystery that happens during the cooking competition that makes you really want to turn those pages and see what's going to happen next. I felt like I was watching a baking competition. I was actually nervous when things would go wrong. The entire ensemble cast, like, I really felt invested in all of the characters. The ending I thought was super satisfying. It was a great book. This is book 1 of the Long Game series. So I thought Elena Armas did pretty well with this book. I will say that the second half for me was a lot stronger than the first half. First half is pretty much two people. It's grumpy as opposed to grumpy sunshine. And you don't really know why either until later. Adeline has had a crazy outburst. She works for her father's soccer club, and something that she does goes viral. So she's exiled to a small town in North Carolina where she meets a British former soccer star who's also got a chip on his shoulder. They wind up working together for a little girl soccer team, and they're both looking for redemption. The second half is where this really starts to take off. We see that he's actually a cinnamon roll hero under all those layers. There's some beautiful caretaking scenes as well. There is a lot of spice. For me, I need more emotion though to be really excited about it, and this was sort of lacking. He took control, as the men in Elena Armas's books tend to do. So if you really like kind of an aggressive guy during those spicy times, you're gonna love this. For me, it's like, meh. There was also some things that happened in the third act that I was sort of surprised by, and I think it's mostly meant to set up the next book in the series, but I'm still excited to read more Elena Armas in the future. My next 3.5 star, Secrets at Sunset by Juliet Cross. This is attached to the Bright Like Wildfire series, although I don't think you see any of the same characters, but you know they're in the same town. It had me all over the place. I was cheering, but I was also booing. We have two people that have known each other since childhood. He's a great deal older than she is, so he has definitely kept his feelings at bay, because initially he felt kind of like a pervert because she was quite a bit younger than him. She's carried a torch for him since she was like 7 years old, although he didn't know it. Now she's back, she's all grown up, and she wants his help in creating a ballet studio. So basically they barter. She is going to cook and clean for him and be at his house a lot, and he's going to help her create this ballet studio in this old office building that she has just purchased. As they spend more and more time together, the intense chemistry they have, which every Juliet Cross book, it is intense. He watches her like a tiger, and you feel it coming. The love scenes were way too physical for me, not nearly emotional enough, and I actually found myself going, boo, when they forgot to use protection. It's like, come on, guys. Like, that really ruins it for me. It didn't feel caring enough to me, if that makes sense. I just needed more emotion. The epilogue, however, had me crying at the end because it was so sweet. I was just up, down, all around, as I am sometimes with Juliet Cross. It's a good novella, but I would have loved a little more love. Here comes one of the millions of Christmas arcs that I read that came out September 26th, The Sound of Sleighbells by Janet Daly. When I requested this, it was because it was the first Christmas arc I saw like almost a year ago, and I thought, oh, this will be fun. How many could there possibly be? Before I found out there were going to be hundreds. So I had trouble sinking into this one, and it might just be me because I don't think I'm a big contemporary Western fan. The characters were very sweet. We have Ruth. She is finally getting her life back together and stable after a string of really difficult relationships, when her first relationship blows back into town after having been in prison. And he starts hanging out with her oldest son, who is actually also his son. I'm not giving anything away. This is also in the summary. They start working on a harness that's going to be used in the Christmas parade. It's very sweet. There's a lot of Christmas fun, a lot of family togetherness, a cozy Western romance. I'm not their target audience, I'll say that. Don't let my 3.5 stars deter you from thinking you might make this a 5-star for yourself. Well, this one was a fun surprise. Beauty in Autumn, which is beauty book number 3. There's beauty in spring, beauty in summer, beauty in autumn, and beauty in winter. And Tiffany of Tiff Talks Pages and I wound up inadvertently buddy reading this while we were doing my Just Because It's Fall reading sprints with friends. It was so fun. This novella really brought the autumn feels, which I love. That's just what I was looking for. And it was a really neat retelling of Beauty and the Beast. We have a woman who just sort of knows in her bones that she's supposed to be the next sacrifice, essentially, from her small village to go into these dark, deep woods and basically marry the beast. She's hoping, though, unlike every girl before her, that she can help break the curse. Every other girl, I think, is just hoping to survive, which so far nobody's come back. So we don't think that that's happening. She and the beast have a connection like none other. The romance was there. The fantasy elements were there. It was beautifully written. I really enjoyed it, but I felt like there could have been way more to know and learn about this world. Ruby Dixon did keep all the spice. I really had a good time, but yeah, this could have been a full novel. My next 3.5 star, end of the line, book 2, Just a Boyfriend by Soraya Wilson. I love this author. She's really good at sweet romance. It's closed door, but it's still spicy. I'm telling you. Just like with the other book in this series, which I'll talk about later, Bash and Ember actually had been dating when Bash's dad and Ember's mom wound up together. Bash decides to hightail it out of there and break things off with Ember because he figures that they can't last and he doesn't want to ruin the family. So nobody even knew that Bash and Ember were together. Well, now they are face to face again because they're at college together, and of course they see each other at home as well. Oh, and I should mention, this is the end of the line series. It's like a junior college, which is considered the end of the line for football players who have had troubles in their past and have been kicked out of their original colleges but are still hoping for a shot at the NFL. So that is part of the reason why Bash is all of a sudden back in the picture, because he got kicked out of his original school. And a lot of these heavy backstories are part of what drags it down for me a little bit in the rating, but it also gives it its heft. Overall, it was a good story. My next 3.5 star, I actually just grabbed for 50 cents at a library sale last week. This is book 2 of the Clandestine Affairs series by Diana Quincy. I adored the first book in this series, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to read the next one, which is what I did in the month of September, and I really did enjoy it. We have another woman who is of Arabic descent. She is another queen. She has a commanding presence. She has a career that she wants to thrive in. She is known as a bone setter. And surprise, surprise, back in the 1800s, they don't really find a lot of respect for a woman with her background, and especially someone who wants to have a career. So she's up against all that, showing her strength while also trying to balance the culture that she's with her family's culture and honoring her family as well, but also her own dreams for herself, which I was so impressed by. I love how Diana Quincy does this. We have women that are ready for love, but also are their own person, which I'm so glad I found this author. There was some mystery and suspense along with this. Let me bring Griff in. Griff was part of the reason why this only got 3.5 stars. He drove me a little bit crazy. He didn't always strike me as very smart. He was in cahoots with someone who was nefarious, and over and over, Griff's like, did he do something bad? Let me ask him about it and give him a chance to lie to me. No, Griff, stop talking to him. He's bad. We're trying to figure out how bad this bad man is as we're trying to discover what happened to Griff's parents and also how it relates to a necklace that our heroine, Hannah, who I'm now just naming, owns. We have the mystery, we have the excitement, and I'm really excited to buddy read the next book in the series this month with my gal, Tara, over at Tara Talks Books. Okay, let's talk about my first 3-star romance. This is Christmas at the Lake by Anita Hughes. Okay, I did give this 3 stars because it does bring a lot of the holiday fun. Here's my problem with this book though. It was not tethered to reality very hard. Our heroine has just been dumped at the altar, basically. It's on her wedding day. Her fiance tells her that he has been cheating on her with their coworker. So she decides she's still going to enjoy their Christmas honeymoon. And then she gets to the site of their honeymoon, a resort at a beautiful lake, only to find out that her fiance canceled it because he figured she wasn't going to be going. And he was going off to the Bahamas or whatever with his new woman. Although she wasn't new, I guess, was she? Anyway, it's while Rebecca is here that she meets her old, almost sweetheart from college. Zach is trying to take off as a director, and he decides he's going to use her story to inspire him and hopefully win this big competition. It was fun. The romance was fun. The Christmassy feels were fun. It was a beautiful setting, but there was just scene after scene of Rebecca saying things like, I really miss my old fiance. I wish he'd call. Why? He's awful. Or when she was about to get kicked out of her hotel room by this other guy who comes in, he asks her how she's doing, and she proceeds to tell him about her day, which included being dumped on her wedding day. He responds with, I had a bad day too. Not like that, you didn't. And she doesn't seem to care. And then he says, you know, my bad day is that I need help with a Christmas party. And she goes, I like party planning. Like, lady, you just got dumped. You don't need to be planning a party right now. You need to relax. The other thing that was really funny about this book is we got so many back details. We're learning everything, like her best friend, what she majored in college, and the classes she took. I'm like, do we need to know this? Does this have anything to do with the story? I guess this author really likes being very thorough. Here comes yet another Christmas arc that I read that came out in the month of September. It does set itself apart. I was really impressed. It's called 3 Holidays and a Wedding. It's women's fiction more so than romance. There is romance in it, but a lot of it is these 2 women that are now friends. We have 2 women from vastly different backgrounds and cultures. Anna, who is Christian, who had a stepmother who was Jewish, so she also celebrated Jewish traditions her entire life. And Miriam, who is Muslim. And initially, the 2 of them don't think they're going to connect, but they absolutely do. This book is set in Canada in the year 2000, which is the last time that the holidays of Eid, Hanukkah, and Christmas were all within days of each other, which made for a very interesting holiday celebration. Anna and Miriam wind up getting stranded with Miriam's family in this little town in Canada. They're snowed in, they can't get out. Miriam and Anna both face some of the same things. They don't know their own worth. I loved learning more about the Islamic culture, Ramadan especially. There is some Christmas fun. There's also some Hanukkah fun. The vast majority of this, though, discusses the traditions, the rituals, and the practices that go along with Ramadan and Eid. For the romance aspect of this, we have Miriam, who has had a crush on a guy who's been friends of their families forever, and he's there because they're heading to her sister's wedding. So the 2 of them explore the potential for a relationship, while Anna encounters a crush of hers. He's basically like the Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. He's a famous actor who's done a lot of Hallmark movies, and he's actually in town trying to film a movie, and the 2 of them fall for one another, which was fun. The reason, though, that I gave this 3 stars, I had trouble sinking into the pages. There was a lot of extraneous information, and a lot of the book, there would be plot and things going on, but then they would come back together and then they would just talk about it over and over again. Or Miriam would talk to her different family members over and over again. So we covered a lot of the same topics over and over and over again. This was still a good book, but not quite as gripping as I was hoping that it would be, but I think it's got a lot of value, and it was really beautiful seeing 2 women that were from such different backgrounds find common ground and discover how worthy they are as people. For my next 3-star, here's the first book in the series, The End of the Line by Soraya Wilson. I adored Logan and Jess. I found myself thinking about them. Even when I wasn't reading the book, I was rooting for this couple so much. Logan is all about integrity, honor, respect. He's been kicked out of his college, and now he is at the end of the line. It's a junior college. That's your last chance if you want a shot at the NFL. He doesn't want to mess up his chance, but there's a coach who wants his team to succeed, and he creates the most ridiculous rules, like no dating, no cussing, all these rules to try to make them into better men. And of course, the coach has a daughter named Jess who is very off limits, but she winds up being a math tutor for Logan. And despite everything, Logan and Jess start to fall for one another. This is another closed-door romance that still, despite itself, found ways to be spicy. It was emotional. As I said, I loved this couple so much. I really wanted them to make it, despite the fact that this was a super forbidden romance. But there was a lot of heaviness. Each of them has extremely heavy backstories. And also, again, the parents were sort of a mess and kind of cringy. I had a really hard time with them, but I found myself very pleased with Logan and Jess's story overall. So 3 stars. My last 3-star, The Christmas Cafe by Eliza Evans. I thought this was going to be the perfect book, but it just goes to show sometimes things don't really gel. This is about a gal named Sylvie who works at a Christmas cafe. It's a Christmas cafe year-round in a town that's Christmassy year-round, but it's not doing well and her cafe isn't doing well. And then we find out that a channel, the Holiday Channel, which is like the Hallmark Channel, is going to be filming a Christmas movie in her town. For no particular reason, the actor who is everybody's favorite Hallmark type actor winds up falling for Sylvie, and the two of them go on some really cute Christmas dates that unfortunately she can't really enjoy because she's too stressed out about whether or not her cafe is going to make it or not. She is ornery, she is difficult to love, along with some of the members of her family. This also is the first book that I've ever read where there's a dead grandparent that they lean on so wholeheartedly to try to make this more emotional that it just doesn't land. I've read so many books where there's a family member who has passed and their feelings about that person feel genuine or somehow help with the plot or the growth of the character or to explain the background of the characters. This one, though, felt different to me. It just felt like this plot device that was being forced a lot. Why did I wind up giving this 3 stars, though? Because I still think it was a decent book. We have another man who's been waiting in the wings for Sylvie, a regular guy who's the quiet type, and maybe he's a secret cinnamon roll, who's just been waiting for the right time to reveal his feelings. So when the two of them are together and she's not in a bad mood, they have some time to shine. So it was really fun getting to see her with 2 different fun type guys having dates. But yes, I was hoping this would be a lot more fun. The food that they mention is super yummy. I did enjoy that a lot. And some of the small town vibes were fun, but again, like it just didn't feel fully fleshed out. But yes, 3 stars. I don't know what else to say. My last book, my 2.5 star, I thought was going to be incredible. And I'm sure a lot of people liked it. I think it's got like 3.9 on Goodreads. But this book was supposed to be one of the top 5 most anticipated romance releases in the fall, according to Goodreads. So I was really excited when I got the audio arc of this. And it just sort of left me feeling flat. We have 2 heroines that are on the same soccer team. And despite the fact that there's only a few years separating them, it felt like a real age gap because one has been around for quite some time, and the other one is brand new to the team. The one who's been around a while, Grace, is already experiencing a lot of chronic pain from having played soccer for so long. And then we have Phoebe, who is the extroverted new gal who is very amorous. She's very interested in being amorous. I was actually talking to Albie of Albie Reading Romance, who had also read this. She and I were both remarking on the fact that we were surprised that it was so spicy so early on. It was like, where do we even go from here? There wasn't as much emotion. In fact, I think we were at the 85% mark when Grace finally talks about how Phoebe is helping her as a person. I did like Grace somewhat, more so than Phoebe, who just seemed to me to be kind of shallow and just in it for a good time. The two of them do eventually come around and there is some emotion at play, but a lot of this was just Phoebe trying to hook up with Grace, which was just not my favorite. I want some emotion. I just wanted to see more from Phoebe. She felt extremely immature to me. I really loved the sports aspect of this. We got to see a lot of preparation, games, all of that, which was a lot of fun. There were several things that were just brought up in passing I felt like weren't dealt with and left me kind of questioning. But yeah, a lot of this just sort of left feeling distant from the characters. So a little disappointing. Hey there, B from the future, which is by now the past, just thinking about my video and I realized I totally forgot to mention the Duke Heist, which I finished in September, the first book in the Wild Winchester series by Erica Ridley. I was really excited about this one and I found it to be fairly lackluster. Unfortunately, the ensemble cast was what really won. Lawrence, our hero, I found to be kind of annoying. He was not a very nice person. Sorry for all the noise, I'm doing this while I can. We covered the same ground over and over. He wasn't very kind and compassionate until he finally felt something with Chloe, who was rather forgettable as a character. Tommy really saved the day and stole the show. She was in costume quite a bit. She was incredibly witty, and you see the beginnings of Tommy's infatuation with Phoebe, which is realized in the much better book, which comes next, The Perks of Loving a Wallflower. I'm glad that I read this book because I do enjoy the characters overall, and I want to experience more of the series. I'm looking forward to reading some of the novellas that are sprinkled in before book 2, after book 2, and then diving into book 3 of the series. Now back to my original broadcast. Well, those were the books that I read in the month of September. I had so much fun. What did you read in September? Please let us know in the comments below. What did you love? Maybe what did you not love? Let's talk about it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading, regardless of what month it is. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.